All right, let's dive into a story that's going to give you chills. I want you to imagine a village, a place where the sunset doesn't signal the end of the day, but the beginning of an absolute nightmare. A place completely trapped by one single terrifying rule. This is the story of Khandwa.
Now for you and me, 7 o'clock is what? Dinner time? Time to watch some TV? But in Khandwa, 7 p.m. isn't just a time on the clock. Oh no, it is a hard deadline. A deadline for survival.
Every single evening, that exact sound echoes through the empty streets. It's the village warning bell. It's this constant, chilling reminder that once that clock hits 7, the world outside your front door, well, it doesn't belong to the living anymore.
And that brings us to the absolute core of this entire story, the rule of 7 p.m. You have to understand, this isn't a suggestion. It is an unbreakable, absolute curfew. Nobody is outside after dark, nobody opens their door, there are no exceptions. Because to ignore that rule is to basically sign your own death warrant.
So who are the key players in this whole mess? Well, first up, you've got Rana. He's the guy who strictly enforces the rules. Then there's Kaki, a local shopkeeper who is just terrified she absolutely believes in the curse. On the total opposite end, you've got Bobbin, the village skeptic who loudly calls it all a bunch of nonsense. And right in the middle of all of this is Dev, Rana's young son, who's just trying to figure out what's real.
So you have this fragile piece, right? How does it all get shattered? Well, it all starts one evening, right as that warning bell is ringing. Young Dev is doing what he's told, securing his home, when something happens that changes everything. As Dev is about to pull the curtain shut, his father, Rana, gives him this incredibly chilling piece of advice. He says, "Son, we don't draw the curtains to hide from them, we draw them so we can't see them. The real danger isn't being seen, it's seeing, it's hearing, it's being tempted by whatever is waiting out there in the dark."
And just as those words are hanging in the air, Dev hears it. The impossible. A voice from right outside the window calling his name. A voice he knows better than his own, but a voice that just shouldn't exist. It's his mother, Nandini, and she's begging him to let her in.
So what do? You're Dev, and you're caught in this impossible choice. In one ear, you have the voice of your mother, alive, telling you everything you've ever known is a lie. And in the other ear, you have your father, his face grim, telling you with absolute certainty, your mother is dead. And the thing outside, it's smart. It knows exactly how to twist the knife. It speaks right to Dev's deepest hope, his deepest fear, and it accuses his father of lying. Your father is lying, son. It's a direct attack on the one person Dev is supposed to be able to trust.
And you know what? The temptation is just too much. Dev snaps. He ignores his father's screaming, he unbolts the lock, and he throws the door open, only to find nothing. Just empty, silent darkness. And in that split second, Rana grabs him and yanks him back inside, just as that same voice calls out again from the night, proving the danger was real and it was right there.
The night passes in absolute terror. The next morning, Rana is shaken. He knows he almost lost his son, and he realizes the lies just aren't going to work anymore. It's time for Dev to hear the whole horrible truth about what happened to his mom. But Rana doesn't take Dev to a grave, no. He leads him to this old, rusting, abandoned bus on the edge of the village. This forgotten junk heap is basically a monument to their family's greatest pain, and it's here that Rana finally tells him the story. So here's the story Rana tells. Years ago, they arrived back at the village late, way after curfew, around 4 a.m. They had no choice but to hide in the bushes until sunrise. But then, Nandini heard a child crying for help. She couldn't ignore it. She went to help, but it was a trap. The child wasn't real, it was a lure, and it just looked at her and said, "But I found you." Rana, who was hiding inside the bus, could only watch in horror as these creatures swarmed the area. When the sun finally came up, the creatures were gone, and so was Nandini. Rana calls them the Bashinde, which means the inhabitants. He says they're the spirits of villagers who died in some tragic way. Now they haunt Khandwa after dark, and their curse is simple and horrifying. Anyone they catch, anyone they take, becomes one of them. So that voice Dev heard, it wasn't his mother. It was what his mother has become.
But wait a minute. As tragic as that story is, there's a huge question just hanging in the air, right? A paradox that just doesn't add up. If these Bashinde are so powerful and they completely surrounded the bus and took Nandini, how in the world did Rana survive that night without a scratch?
And it turns out Dev isn't the only one who has noticed this massive hole in the story. There's someone else in the village who's been asking that exact same question for years, someone who never really bought into the curse in the first place.
And that someone is Bobbin, the village skeptic. Later that day, as everyone's getting ready for the 7 p.m. lockdown, he publicly calls out the story that everyone else just blindly accepts. He asks how Rana, the guy enforcing all the rules, somehow survived a night that by all accounts should have killed him. And that question plants a serious seed of doubt. For Dev, hearing Bobbin say this out loud is a lightning bolt. It confirms his own fears. His father's story is missing a piece. So, desperate for the real truth, with the sun setting fast, Dev makes a huge decision. He follows Bobbin. And this is it. This is the climax of our story. Dev follows Bobbin home, getting there just as the darkness takes over the village. And it's in Bobbin's house that the truth finally comes out. And the solution to the mystery isn't a person, it's an object. So, get this. They're inside, and sure enough, the voice of Nandini starts up again, begging Bobbin to come out. But Bobbin, the ultimate skeptic, he's not scared. In this unbelievable move, he just walks straight to his front door, throws it wide open, and dares the creature to come on in.
And the creature, it just freezes. It can't cross the threshold. And in that one moment, the whole mystery is solved. Rana didn't survive because he was brave or because he got lucky. He survived because of something that was already on that bus, a powerful object that kept him safe.
Bobbin then explains how he figured it all out. It was just simple logical deduction. First, he knew Rana's story made no sense. So, the morning after it happened, he went and searched the bus himself. And what did he find? A Rudraksha mala, sacred prayer beads, just hanging there. He took them, hung them on his own door, and waited for nightfall. And his theory was right. The Bashinde couldn't get in. And that's when Bobbin delivers the final, stunning truth to Dev. It was the beads. This whole time, it was the beads. This one simple, sacred object has the power to create a perfect barrier, a sanctuary that the dead cannot cross. It's the secret that accidentally saved Rana's life and has been protecting Bobbin on purpose ever since.
So, okay, one mystery solved. We know how Rana survived, and we know there's a way to stay safe from the Bashinde. But that only really answers the how, doesn't it? It doesn't answer the why. The sun is setting again in Khandwa, those warning bells are starting to ring, and the fundamental horror of this place, the curse itself, is still very much alive. Which makes you wonder, what other secrets is this village hiding?